Welcome to the hour where we beat the 9 biggie drums. I'm your host Danny, along with my co-host Son. Tonight we have a special guest in the house, Sam Styles, educator, community activist, filmmaker.
Hey, what's going on? What's up, y'all? How you doing? What's up, Danny? How you going, man? So, thank you.
I'm doing good, Sam. How you doing?
Doing great.
All right, it's a pleasure to have you in studio here tonight. Just before we get in, we're here. When we beat the 9 biggie drums, we go fast and we go furious. But before we get started, we just want you to kind of expound a little bit about you, what you do, your background, just a bit so everybody gets familiar with you.
Wow. Well, in Flash, community activism in Oakland, mainly East Oakland. Filmmaker from Oakland as well. Did a lot of music videos coming up for the 90s and 2000s hip hop. And educator, teaching at various schools in Oakland, as well as some in San Francisco. Currently right now working at a middle school right now.
Middle school where, in Oakland or San Francisco?
Oakland, East Oakland. And teaching science and history.
Science and history in middle school. You care to share the name of the middle school in Oakland?
Elmhurst.
Elmhurst
Middle School.
Okay, middle school in Oakland. All right. So you, prior to the education, I heard you talked a little bit about film. Talk a little bit about that, the early years of the filmmaking.
Wow, it was just, I guess, a dream to come true, just working at and loving cinema. And, it's so many layers, there's so much to talk about. But,
When we talk about the, I know that in the early years you had a small film company, Swing Low Films.
Swing Low Films, yes.
Swing Low Films. Talk a little about Swing Low and the videos that you did and the artists that you work with.
Those were great times, man. Those were times where you know a lot about as well. You were right there with us. You know what I mean? And our buddy Chris, Chris Webber. We did. We were at the beginning stages of hip hop in the Bay Area with the JT, the Bigger Figures, the Rapping Fortes, Too Short. We did the videos during that time when a lot of the artists were just now getting airplay and getting on these, going international, top 10, MTV, things of that sort. So the videos that we directed were those videos that was amongst those and got on music video, jukebox, and MTV and all that kind of stuff. So we were in the right times at the right time.
I think you did Kurt Franklin's beginning video.
Yeah, we did.
We shot that right there in Napa, I believe. Right?
Yeah, we did. The Reason Why We Sing. We did Jesus Is the Reason, and we did one of his big ones, Revolution.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are those years.
How was it working with artists like Kurt Franklin, Forte, Too Short?
It was good. Just in the sense of they were working on their skills in art too. They were all had a pursuit as well. They hit to a certain destination, and so did we. So our paths met, and we continued to study our craft as they did there. So when we got to set, no one was late, pretty much. Everybody was pretty much taking care of their business and hitting their marks when they needed to. So it was great. It was just, everybody was on the right page as far as like, let's put the bay on.
So you went from shooting videos to filmmaking. What took you to the jump from shooting the videos? I know that kind of leads you into filmmaking, but what was the passion for you to become a filmmaker?
The passion started when I was about 12, when I wrote my first script about a neighborhood that I was from, specifically the block I lived on. A gang of us was, we called ourselves world-class athletes. We were the all-stars, and we would challenge different neighborhoods in sports. So amongst that, I was the one who was documenting mentally and writing it down every day. And I brought it back to the guys at the time, that, hey man, let's make a movie about this. We had no idea of how to do it, But so that was the beginning of, my mechanical thinking of how to make a movie and wanting to make a film, as well as being influenced by films that I saw at the Eastmont Mall, Coliseum, drive-in theater, just cinema at that time. It was just really, had the effect on me, but nobody else like for me, you know. So I don't know. I guess that was just the path. I guess that was just what I was supposed to do because the trajectory it pursued that, it produced that.
Okay.
You know, the love for cinema and how it influenced me, and then just the writing, all that just came.
What are the legendary directors and filmmakers that kind of influenced you?
Spike Lee.
Spike Lee.
It was him who, when I got to San Francisco State, it was him who I saw Do the Right Thing in School Days, which.
Yeah, Do the Right Thing, School Days. Yeah, basically that was part
yeah,
of it.
You know,
it
was right there where it's like actually the light bulb went off of like, okay, now I'm able to put a face to it. Now all the things I thought I was able to do and wanted to do, it can actually be done. Right. You know, and Spike was that face that, you know, that was imprinted on me. So I wanted to be a Spike, you know. And so, you know, Chris and I, we got a first script written called Cry for Help. It was about a kid who was going to the
I remember that
military for the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
right. So we ended up shooting in different locations in Vallejo and at Eastmont Mall and at Chris' house, you know.
Right.
And we went for it. You know, we thought we knew what we was doing, but we just didn't know exactly the technical part, you know. So at that point, when we got the footage back, I'm skipping through it, but we got the footage back from filming that, you know, that particular script. And we're looking at the footage in the edit suite, and we couldn't see the footage. It was too dark. We didn't light it correctly. We had the wrong lights, man. we had the wrong lights, you know. So Chris' mom told us, like a couple of days later, said, "Hey, you guys, I love the passion and all that, but you should go to school for it." So that clicked with me. So then that's why I went to school at Solano JC, took some film classes, and then got back on. And that's when we started putting that to the test, you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So you currently go ahead, son. I'm sorry.
No, I apologize. I was just thinking, you know, Sam, you mentioned Eastmont Mall a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the worldwide listeners what Eastmont Mall is so that they'll have an understanding of what you're referring to.
Eastmont Mall, for those that lived in East Oakland, was like our mecca for social. That was our social media at the time. You know, everyone hung out there. And the movie theater was my hangout. You know, I stayed in that. I figured out how to either pay my way to get in or hit the back door. I had to stay in there. So, go ahead.
Everybody bought their clothes from there, and you know.
Tower Records, the Derby jackets. It was a place where coming of age was happening. It's an iconic place. It was a very iconic place, and
I don't know. So knows a lot about Eastmont.
Oh, okay.
She lived in the area, and you know she's into the media entertainment industry as well. Yeah. So I was hoping she would have a lot more questions for you. She's really deep into that.
Good.
So, definitely. So go ahead. You know, fire away.
No, I'm excited. I was just wanting to make sure that, you know, our worldwide listeners, I didn't want to interrupt what you were saying, Danny, but one question that I have, Danny already touched on it, was with your passion. So with that being said, how are you touching that now? How are you touching the industry now? And how does education, what you're doing now in the education system, does that tie into it in any way?
Yeah, well, it tied in the sense of when I started actually teaching, I was teaching youth about filmmaking.
Okay.
You know, so the first group of kids I worked with was at East Oakland Youth Development Center, and what we would do at that time was take the camera and go out and film just, you know, the neighborhood. You know, just capturing images that said East Oakland, that said 82nd and East 14th. You know. That said, we had assignments where we would do some beautification, you know, so we'd film ourselves doing beautification, you know, but it was just the idea of, you know, me kind of getting them in a way of thinking to where, you know, you are reporters, you know, you are the ones who's capturing, you know, this.
So TikTok, time. So I mean, people are, you know, they go crazy over TikTok now, and if you think about it, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, basically we were doing TikTok, right?
Yeah, we
We just didn't name it TikTok.
We didn't name it TikTok.
Right.
Yeah.
We didn't have the technology.
No, it didn't move as fast. In the sense of, after we filmed it, we got to go and edit it. We got to, you know, do that whole process where you shoot it and you can go live at the time you're shooting right now, you know. But yeah, it started with East Oakland Youth Development Center. Then from there, I had gone to San Francisco and worked with a media center called CYMC, Conscious Youth Media Crew.
Okay.
And they were working on documentaries in the Hunters Point area. And they were at the time focused in on the Naval Shipyard,
okay,
where a lot of like the stuff that's going on with that yard.
The pollution, where you heard about the pollution and
exactly.
things, right? Okay.
It's affecting the neighborhood.
Right.
You know, so these kids at the time were doing documentaries. When I came aboard, the executive director, Deborah, she wanted to do a feature film with these kids. So she brought me in to help them transition documentary making into feature filmmaking. You know, so I had to take them through the steps of, you know, how to transition that into a screenplay, their ideas and what they filmed already, and then the day-to-day filming of it. You know, how to shoot the pages. You know, people had to hit their marks and things of that stuff. So we had auditions and scout locations, all that stuff. So that was wonderful. We completed that film. It came out, it premiered, and did a lot of good for that area. Then from there, I came back to Oakland and went to Youth Uprising and worked with those kids over there by Castlemont. And same situation, you know, media, filming, recording, editing, things of that sort. Then I took a trip up to my alma mater, Skyline, taught some filmmaking up there. Fremont High School, taught some filmmaking there.
Skyline. I don't mean to cut you off, but for many who are out there that don't know that you guys went to school with GP.
Yeah.
Gary Payton. Yeah.
Came out the same time.
Yeah.
What's up, G? So you know, I just, you know, felt it as my assignment to continue to, I would get attracted to, and it would be attracted to me as far as the like-mindedness of it, you know, the youth that, you know, had that eye, who spoke that language, you know. So I felt it was my duty to, you know, be the elder in that sense now and give tutelage, you know, and give direction, you know, so.
So that kind of led you from the filmmaking into education, and then community activist.
Right.
Most definitely. Talk about some of the filmmakers in the Bay Area that you've influenced.
Jeez, I still don't know. You know what I mean? It's like it's a number of them, and they're still working on their craft. You know, and you know. One just called me yesterday, IGA, and he's talking about moving to LA. You know, he has no responsibilities and he's got some children and wife and things of that sort. So I'm like, yeah, man, go. You know, go see what's happening. But know that the language there is different. Know that it's Hollywood. You know, so I'm giving him information on how to see it and how he should see it as Hollywood. You know, not as an independent type situation. You know, because up here, we don't have the trailers and the big casting calls and things of that sort, you know, as such they do in LA, you know. So it is a different dynamic out there.
Right. What about Pharaoh? Well, some of the
Pharaoh, Ramesses, Mario Bobino, what's up? Rockefeller. A lot of those guys came from TV as well. Okay. Ramesses, he taught the kids as well. He still works with the kids. Him and we're all good friends. We're all, because we're like-minded. We all do the same thing, you know, so it's naturally the way we've supported each other. You know?
I know Pharaoh's done he's done a couple premieres. The reason I know that is one of the artists that I manage has been working with them. Her name's Minaj. Okay. So she's been working with them. They've been doing really well. So I haven't been to any of the shows, but you know, I heard that it's working pretty good.
That's good.
Now, also, Ryan Coogler, did you have a chance to work with him or?
I've had a chance to talk to him a couple of times. Okay. When, right after he did Fruitvale. Okay. He had did a screening for some youth from Skyline. So, and at the time I was at Skyline. So we took him there and I met him and he knew who I was based upon
your past work and stuff like that.
Yeah, you know. So that point, I had some moments with him, and then there was a couple of times we spoke just to mentorship and just, you know, basically, man, you're doing the right thing right now. Just continue going and don't limit the way of thinking, you know, as you aren't, you know, but take Hollywood by storm, man. You know, we need, you know, you're on our backs, you know, so, yeah, but, you know, I've had some moments with him.
Right. So we need more movies that maybe reflect who we are as a people.
For sure.
Definitely.
For sure.
Too much of this, well, when I say reflect, more of the community, more of the family, more of religion, per se,
They're getting
or
done.
spirituality.
They're getting done. They're just not, you know, the outlet is, or the marketing for it. It's not just being displayed correctly, you know, but there are filmmakers who's actually, you know, really committed to, you know, the issues that we are dealing with daily, you know.
Are they getting those films to the festivals?
Yeah, they're getting to the festivals.
And like the, you know, there's the local festivals in San Francisco and the like, and
Oakland International.
even going big as Cannes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are, but those are fees, and, you know, getting the film done is a whole nother beast. Completing the film on the last edit and being able to pay everybody that you pay, you know, that's a task, you know. And then to now, you know, send it to different places, which require a fee. It may cost anywhere from $65 to $200 just to get your film seen, you know. So, you know, a lot of filmmakers don't consider that when they have a budget. You know, let's say they get a budget today to do a film. They don't consider the cost of that later. They're just focused on, let me get it done. You know, and that's fair. Yes, we want to get it complete. But to answer your question, yes, you know, they're sending them out, but it's just, you know, being sent out amongst a whole lot of others. You know, it's at the same time with these iPhones, things are saturated. There's a lot of film being made just with the phone now, you know. So the content is, you know, it's hard to find the content. It's you know, and especially if it's black cinema, it's a little bit even harder to, if there isn't a name on it. You know, there isn't, you know, Lawrence Fishburne name on it, or you know, a big name on it to help it get to a different level of the game. You know, so with the no-name films, which may just be totally what we need right now, they're just not being.
So why can't we create something like Blackflix? There's Netflix. Why can't we create Blackflix or Kevinflix and start putting our content up there?
Yeah.
And
because there's no reason why we see what it is, right? Everyone sees what it is. So why wouldn't we be disruptive to these things, especially if those that are trained in the industry? We need to start thinking like that. And, you know, not just with film, but all areas of entertainment. We need to start thinking like that when it comes to our sports, to our sports entities. You know, who's to say that there's only one, you know, NFL? Like, who's to say that cannot be something else created? They cannot, like, it's a monopoly. So, I mean, that's just a subject that I have been thinking and talking about as well. So just to say, like, we can make the change that's needed in entertainment, and that alone will help kind of, you know, guide the world. You know, it'll fix things. It'll bring things to a different light.
You're right.
If we start doing things differently and not being subjected to the norm, to the TikTok, right? To living in TikTok.
I think we also have to figure out a way to slightly deprogram ourselves, not thinking that it's about the money too, because if we have the cameras and equipment and the sound, and, you know, there should be no reason why we can't get something done, but there's always that one or two persons that need to get paid. You know, there has to be some type of budget, and we got to be real about that part too. You know,
right.
And things cost. Like, okay, if you need a car, if you have to rent a particular luxury car, it has to be budgeted. But, you know, there's investors, and there's ways around this, and there's connections. And so I think that, you know, Sam, with you being on the podcast, that it will definitely bring you what's needed as you continue to grow and to make even more more of a footprint and bring, even more of your beauty and your art to the world. So, are you doing something with that right now? What are you working on?
Right now, I'm just writing. So I don't know if it's okay to speak about the school and stuff now. Is that
definitely okay? To speak
so
about
where
the
I'm at
schools.
now, it's like it has nothing to do with filmmaking. I'm not. It's not even my language right now. You know what I mean?
It's education. Right?
Yeah. But however, I'm documenting it. It's like it's always an eventful situation during the day at the middle school. In East Oakland. Yeah. So
what makes it eventful?
The kid who is not where she's supposed to be when her parents come pick her up.
Okay.
She's at the park. So now the parent is up at the school, and then the kid comes back and like, where you been? But the parent is at this point is not really aware or not, of the surroundings that she's speaking to her kid. So she's embarrassing her kid.
Right.
Because, it's myself and two other staff that's standing there in front of the mother and the child. And, the business is getting talked.
So does it affect say the student's self-esteem?
Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow she comes to school and she doesn't have that same drive she had.
Tomorrow she doesn't come to school.
Oh, she doesn't come to school?
Right.
Okay.
So it's like the reason why she comes to school because she doesn't want to, for whatever her reason is. But, the writing that goes on with that is like, okay, so how do we solve this situation?
Gotcha.
How does the script go? You know what I mean? It's like, that's how I'm seeing that situation,
So psychologically, our children in the schools are being affected, not only by the system itself, but by the parents.
Right.
Who, for whatever reason.
Right. Or the parent who tells their son, oh, okay, so your grades, so I'm going to take the phone. Oh, there goes your Christmas. It's like, wow, really? That's the only solution you have to that?
Right.
So there goes, I'm writing that, So it's always that. It's always that moment to where the results of East Oakland, what we see around East Oakland is the result of the education system.
Education system.
So
our communities are just really benefactors of lack of education.
Exactly.
And when we talk about education, we're talking about lack of knowledge, self-respect,
Yes.
self-esteem, all those things. How can we fix it? How do we begin to, as an educator, how do we begin to, and I know we got to start from, the most elementary state, but how do we begin to fix it so that in 5 years, 6 years, we start to change the minds of our children?
Teachers, oh man, that's double-edged. Because I would say one thing is starting with the parents.
Okay.
Which parent hasn't completed high school? Which parent went to college? And it shows in their children. For those that didn't graduate at high school, when the kid gets home with the homework, and the kid says to the parent, can you help me? And the parent sees the math, they can't help. So then that work won't get done. And then there's an F for that class. So the parenting needs to be involved with reminding themselves what school is like.
So we actually need to support the parent.
Yes, they need support as well.
And it starts from the beginning, early on. With our children, you have to be engaged from the time that kid enters Earth with their education, and then when they do get to the school age, you have to be engaged from the beginning when they enter school. And you have to challenge yourself. If you don't know the answer to the questions that, when they go to Common Core Math, for instance, if you don't know those answers, you figure it out. There's ways to get the answers and to figure it out, and so I use tools like Khan Academy, but yeah, we have to really be there from the beginning. And if we're just jumping in at 8th grade, There's difficulty once they're in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard, and I can say that because I was in middle school before, and I know that middle school to me is the time that makes or breaks. If you don't grasp school by middle school, it can almost it could be detrimental. I wouldn't want to put that on any child, but it's hard. You have to work really hard to get over that.
So another event would be the student who's in the 6th grade, then he's in the 7th grade, then he's in the 8th grade, still reading 2nd grade level. So when distance learning takes place,
right,
the student, when he has to go to the canvas and read the assignment, when he gets to the word he doesn't know, he then guesses or just shuts down. So then that student decides to not go online at all and just go hang out, and then ends up running into the wrong people, and then ends up sitting in juvenile hall on an attempted murder charge.
But what about the policymakers, right?
So this is really
That's a real situation. Like, I'm speaking of a
Did
real
that
situation.
happen?
Yes. I have a kid right now who reads at a 2nd grade level, who, because of his not being able to read, decided to, for whatever, he's sitting in jail right now on a murder charge.
The school to prison pipeline. So did this just happen during the corona crisis?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
So there's many of these things, it sounds like. Do you have any stats on, because
So what I'm working on is,
community, how can we help?
What I'm working on is now trying to test the theory. The plan I'm working on right now is to take a book to his peers inside juvenile hall and just have them read. I'm gonna see what's up with that.
Right.
And kind of test my theory to where it's like, okay, yeah, a lot of these kids can't read, and this is how they end up going. This path, right. So I'm working on that, literally working on that right now, planning on getting some dates for some of the kids in there through OBD officer. But that's written. I got that written. I got that as ready as an episode,
So we need more community involvement. We need more people to step up and be involved in the community, support our children, and support the parents of the children, those who, for whatever reason, maybe it's a single mom, maybe it's a single father, maybe it's, they've lost their jobs, and there's the stress of the everyday life. And definitely right now with this pandemic, a lot of people are under great pressure. So, but what about, I'm not going to say the educators, because I know teachers are amazing. They're very amazing. But what about the policymakers, right?
So let's go back to the teachers.
Right.
So, where's the teacher? I got it written. It's another episode. Who just came to that school just to earn enough money to pay off her loan.
Student loan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Her student loan, and to get married. And she done exactly that. She did 3 years, and the students that came through her class, the expectation wasn't high.
Okay.
So, it was just, it's going to grade them through, because I'm just focused on paying off my student loan,
So just passing.
Yeah, man.
Right.
Yeah. And once she completed that, she's now married and 4 months pregnant, and those kids are suffering because of that,
Back in preparation, because now they moved on to the next grade level. They're totally not prepared for the work that's required in that grade level.
Or the teacher who, and let me back up, that teacher was a white teacher. And the next teacher, who happens to be white, the young lady in the classroom, who happens to be black, her mask all our masks at some point slide down a little, just below our nose. So in this image, her mask slides down, and this student happens to be an A student. And she was getting her stuff out of her backpack, and the teacher noticed the mask slide down just a little below her nose. Sent her out the room. Go to the office.
So she got reprimanded for that.
Yeah, Simultaneously wearing a hoodie that says Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
So if the Black Lives really matter, then you don't remove the child from the education. That's just my perspective.
Kind of actually just to pull her mask up some and keep going. Yeah, we have.
You know,
Definitely.
so a lot of it's on the teachers as well. You know, they are their intent, the reasoning for being there. You know, is I'm noticing it's not for the right reasons. You know,
And this,
Who wants a hoodie?
the teacher.
oh,
The teacher
was wearing it.
came
Yes.
in, so after the mask incident, she came in with the hoodie?
No,
or
she was wearing it at the time. She
At the time.
she
Okay.
reprimanded
The student.
lady about her mask.
She doesn't get to wear, okay, that's a whole different subject. Because I'm glad to know it was the teacher wearing it, because I knew that it couldn't have been anything else, because that's all I see that are representing the movement.
Right.
Those are the only signs. I don't see Black Lives Matter signs in our neighborhoods, in black neighborhoods. I see them in the ritzy neighborhoods where, you know, they're in homes that were built in the 1700s that were passed on.
Yeah.
So, they take the young lady out of class. She sends her out of class because her mask went down.
Just a little.
And see, that's a self-esteem. They mess with their self-esteem. See, you're trying to break a child.
Yes.
Why would you do that?
Right.
You know, because you know that we're they're kings and they're queens. And you see that she is a straight A student. And see, that's how are they addressing teachers that do these things? Because to me, this is, again, there should be policies. This is clearly discrimination.
They're not addressing teachers, because the other part of it is the staff are, I would say the majority of them are women. And, you know, the men that's on campus, you know, are the coaches.
The coaches, yeah. Sports.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so, you know, take that how you want, but.
Very few male educators.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you know what? I'm just going to say this as a parent, male or female. The male educators were the two principals, assistant principal and principal, and they did nothing about bullying for my child as I advocated and advocated and advocated. And so, you know what? And I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that there's something happening here. And why is it that teachers are now able to say they don't want to go to class or go to work, or the bus drivers say they don't want to drive, and they do it in particular districts? So then those children are left behind again.
Yeah.
Parents, if you're listening, I suggest taking your children out of those districts and put your child in a district where they can go to school without even worrying about getting kicked out about a mask, where the office and staff don't wear masks.
Well, what about
And
church?
the student, you know, and put them in a school where they can go to school and not worry about being, you know, told that, or made to feel that they don't belong, because you don't wear a Black Lives Matter hoodie and then put the A student child out because of a mask.
Right.
Take the masks out of class if they're causing issues.
Well, I think
Because they're getting sick. Everyone's getting sick anyway. They shut the schools down.
Well, the other part
Same
is
thing that would happen if the kids didn't wear a mask.
the other part is that all the other kids wear their masks halfway down anyway.
right.
Yes, they do. I see
So
it.
it's
Everyone
like,
does.
yeah.
You walk into the bank. You walk into the nail salon. They do your nails, the mask down, lips. It's funny. I even go into a restaurant, and it's funny. In Texas, I remember early on during the corona when it began. You go in Texas at the restaurant, the guy's making the steaks with his mask down, right under his mouth. It was so funny. I said, okay.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard for people to breathe, things like that.
Yeah.
Children. Okay, they're in the school system. Some of them are getting, you know, some of the right education. Some of them are not getting the education. The parents are supporting them. Some parents are not supporting them. But my focus is on the policymakers. Those who are above the teachers, the policymakers on the school board. What are they doing to actually help the children, if any, or help the teachers to make sure that these children are getting the education they need. Especially, we're in a competitive world. We look about, it's no longer America, it's the world. We have children in India who, they start school very, very early. You have children in China, you have children in Russia, you have African children. Very competitive. Here in America, for some reason, we don't seem to want our children, and I'm going to say that in certain geographical locations, to be competitive, to have the education, to do what they do. So how do we make sure that we can have these school boards, the people who are elected on the school boards, these officials, how is it that the parents can be more involved maybe, or should they be? I don't know. So, some parents seem to be pulled back, they don't want to get involved, but I think that parents need to be more involved, not advocating against the teachers, but moving more towards the school boards, the policymakers, making sure that these children are getting the proper education. And if we have to hold them back, or if we have to have committees that can help them after school programs, this and that, how does a community go about addressing that?
I think it starts with the parent noticing. So with my students, for example,
and you being a community activist,
right?
How does that all work and play in?
So I think it starts with it starts at many different levels, but as an instructor, I'm trying to get So one of my strategies is to get the teacher, get the parent up there in front of me, so we can talk about their student.
Right.
Back to school night, it's 2%, parents show up. Crazy. So what strategy I've used was to give their student an F on purpose. First, to see if they're paying attention. Second, to get them up here and ask me why my kid has an F.
Okay.
So 5% of the students that worked. And it would come up and I would talk to the parent about what's the issue with their student. Have you heard your child read? Do you see growth in your child? Do you think it should be something different? So the parent is like, hey, as long as it's not an F, I'm fine. Like their expectation.
Right, very low then.
Very low,
okay.
Or they don't speak English.
Okay.
The other part is the population I teach is, about 60% Latino, 40% Black, Pacific Islander, and some Asian. And literally, the majority of the Latino community population at the school, a lot of those kids translate for their parents.
Okay.
So there's a miscommunication there already. Literally had a parent come up and ask me about his son's grades. And I'm like, he's not doing his homework. He's not doing his homework. And then he goes and explains to me the things he's doing for his son. He's a construction worker. He came up and he had his paint on him, you could tell. He's like, yeah, this is him telling me. He's like, yeah, and I got him a big TV and I got the speakers so he can hook his game up to it and play it. Now it's big, But that's his
way of helping.
That's his way of helping,
right?
And I'm like, but are you looking at the work? But it was hard for him to understand, so his son had to translate, It's just like, wow, man.
So communications.
Yeah. So and by the end of that conversation, he still didn't get it. He still didn't get, the concern. It's more, he kept repeating about the big screen TV and the speakers, and how, then he pointed out to his son's shoes, so they're being assimilated.
Right. The wrong way. Right.
Yeah.
Because now they're not even talking about education, we're talking about material things that are not going to get you, in this. Okay, well, with that said, I think we have to take a break. We have to pay our sponsors, so we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
We'd like to thank and take the time to acknowledge Akibalon Entertainment, bringing unity through music, Joy-Con Network, living the global community, or lighting the global community.
East Bay HR 1242 Coalition, empowering, inspiring communities and families.
We want to take the time to thank the sponsors, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on any of the platforms, and we'd be happy to share their links with you.
All right, thank you, and we're back. All right, so once again, we're back here with Sam Stiles, community activist, educator, filmmaker, and we're going to pick up where we left off, and we're really talking about education, especially in the Oakland area and surrounding areas, but majority Oakland area, and how we can fix the system, how we can get our children back on track and get them the education they need so they can be ready for this more competitive world that we see coming up. So with that said, Sam, the question now is, what do we do?
Oh man, it's so much, man. I think some of our very important people let us know a long time ago, that if we allow the enemy to teach our children, this would happen.
But sometimes the enemy can be ourselves.
Yeah,
all right?
sure.
So
I mean,
yeah, definitely.
Marcus Garvey spoke about a traitor.
Right.
So he was speaking about the traitor of our own people.
Right.
We'll take a fee, for something that's just, man. So what I would suggest is that those that are conscious enough or are engaged and involved enough is to start a Saturday school that will teach, what hasn't been taught during the week. Like I think we have to identify our child's behavior, identify our child's progress. You have to pay attention to the child's progress. Make the kid read in front of you. Make the kid do math in front of you. Make the kid explain to you what you just told them. Something simple as that,
To prioritize.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you seeing a difference in your child from the first day that school starts in August to Christmas break? What have you noticed in your child? Have you seen maturity yet? So I think it again starts with the parents to pay attention to the improvement or the lack thereof, and then with their way of showing that they care, take the time out to do the research for your kid to make sure you can help your kid a little bit more. You gotta, that Saturday morning, get up with your kid and read with your kid. I think without the basic reading and understanding comprehension, without that, it's suicide.
And the I guess without the basic comprehension, reading, math, we see the final outcome.
Yeah.
The prisons get filled up with majority of our people. Other than that.
Yeah.
And it seems like it is the system. It seems like, in my view, it seems like it's the school, it's the system, and it's a left-brained system. It's I've been told they're going to this right-brained system because we are a right-brained people, right? We're about communication, reading. Yeah, we should be about writing. We're about thought, and so we need to start thinking about that. Like our children, why are they not learning in these settings? And there's been changes. If they weren't learning in these settings 30 years ago, then you best believe they're not learning at all in these settings today.
Well, if we look at it strategically, we're not supposed to be learning. This is we're actually on course. Power.
You're so right.
Power is not going to teach how to take their power.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we are just being prepared to continue to work for power.
So the sheep is just the sheep.
The sheep is just a sheep. I put a quote on the board yesterday for my homeroom class, and I got all black boys. So in that particular class, and the quote was, "Do not be the type of person that a racist wants." So we got critical with that, and we broke that down, and we've come to agree that when we aren't like making a sincere effort and disciplining ourselves to, learn the basics, we are now becoming the type of person a racist wants. A racist wants a person that's ignorant.
Right.
That's what they want. They want us to get removed from the class because the phone goes off, or because the note. They want that. They want us to get frustrated and or tell our son that we're going to remove his Christmas from. And that's all we're going to. That's what a racist wants. That's what power wants. So we have to really be truthful about the condition we're in. The system itself, it's not made for us to start.
So
it's
would
not.
you say that we would have to? I'm sorry. What is it? What is it, Sam?
It's removing our child and teaching them ourselves.
Right. So when you say the system's not made for us, it's somewhat interesting because let's say, I don't want to get into the political aspect of all this stuff, but we'll talk about, let's say, civil rights.
Mm-hmm.
So pre-civil rights, we had our own banks.
Yeah.
We had our own institutions.
Mm-hmm.
We had our own education centers, and we know that our children were being educated. And we had the teachers. We were really educated. We were being educated. We were educated. When we took post-civil rights, we started to see the lack of education. And I'm not too sure if people are making the correlation between pre-civil rights and post-civil rights and where we are currently today, and how do we fix it. My thought is that you're right. We need to have more of our own schools, right? So the charter schools, I know a lot of people rail against charter schools, but we need to have more charter schools that are teaching our children how to be competitive, to prepare them. Again, I'm going to repeat this, prepare them for a world that's going to become very competitive.
Yeah.
And the more, day by day, we lack or we don't do what we need to do, we're going to find that our children will be more and more behind. And then we're going to be talking about different things like these camps that they're building, right? Not the prison systems, but camps that they're building for the uneducated.
They don't have to build them camps. Even though they don't have to build them. With my group, yesterday, one of the kids had a Hawaiian punch. And one of the kids, another kid made reference to his lips being red from the Hawaiian punch.
Right.
So I got the bottle and I wrote the ingredients on the board. And we sat and talked the ingredients. And when we got to artificial flavoring, first of all, they didn't know what the word artificial meant. So I had to tell them it's the opposite of real. They said,
And what grade are we talking about?
We're talking 6th graders.
6th grade?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the opposite of real is fake. Oh yeah, so it's fake coloring, it's fake flavor? I'm like, yeah. So we started Googling some of the words from the ingredients, and they started like, wow. They immediately threw that drink away,
Yeah.
But the diet itself, our diets,
right,
are hindering our thinking.
Our thought process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind
of fogging up the mind. Right.
Exactly.
With that in mind, and with that being said, Sam, what do you think about our children? I believe, them needing to be educated in who they are, what they are, where they really come from, the real history of them. Once they see that, they will walk this earth like the kings and queens they are.
I agree.
And we have to instill that. We have to be able to instill that in them.
I agree. So, since beginning of the school year, I was preparing for that right there, what you just spoke about, as far as like how to really introduce themselves to themselves, and these kids have the N word is, it's like their best word.
Correct.
So,
which I don't understand. That word is very negative, and a lot of people try to use that and say, well, oh no, we're using it in a different way, so it represents something different, but actually it's still the representation of a negative word against who we are as a people, because it represents ignorance and more so, not even ignorance, just non-human.
But there's, in my view, I see the word. There's probably three different ways that the word is used and said, and in the way that it's so they're different. Like if a rapper is using it, or even if a person on the street's using it, they're not using it in the way that, and it's a different word. It's spelled different. It's the inflection. It's all different. Now people are saying, oh well, the word it goes back to this. I understand that because words have power. Yes.
Right.
And so now that I'm speaking through this, what it's doing too, even though I have these different views, is it's locking us down as a people. Because now, like, I think it's okay to use the word however you want to use it. I'm not judging anyone. I'm not judging them because I'm not fake. I've used the word. I've used the word in a way like as a rapper used the word. And I couldn't understand, you know what I mean? I didn't see anything wrong with that. Because it wasn't the word the way that they used it back during slavery when they created it. But the real deal is the word.
But wait a minute now.
It's a Spanish word.
So, see that word. Again, that word should never be used. We don't hear Jewish people calling themselves, whatever. We don't have Chinese people calling themselves whatever. The only people we hear using that and then trying to make face with it is us. I think that word should be stricken. We should never use that word against ourselves. We should have a word that better reflects us. Like when you say kings and queens. So let's use a word that better reflects who we are as a people. We are not the word, that N word. I've never used that word in my life, and I'm 50 something years old, because I always saw that as a word that was negative, it was dark, and it made me feel very negative and dark. And hey, I'm a king. I know where I come from. I'm from the Ancient of Days. Okay, I started this whole thing. And yes, religion, spirituality, education, everything came from my forebears.
So what I've done was what you just said. So the word we use is God. So I gave them some scripture. I gave them other books that reflected on the original man and the time being you just spoke of. So the job was to remove the N word and put the G word in. And where we at in almost February, it's worked. It's worked to the degree where repetition has also been a part of that. You got to continue to remind them. I've noticed when they're about to say it, they'll look around and notice they're about to say it. So there's an awareness now. There's an awareness now that, that word is what you all just described, But it also brought, and what I explained to them, and showed them a certain frequency with that word. And there's a certain frequency that comes with the word God, So taken from the concept of the 5%ers, what I've been doing is using all these different elements, Garvey, Malcolm, 5%ers, all these different elements of teaching, and just made a big old pot of gumbo, and I'm feeding it to them. Right. So we greet each other as peace God, and their back has straightened up a little bit more when they recite this now,
Because they have better
the
self-esteem.
cells are changing.
Exactly, the cells are changing.
Their body are changing as they're speaking.
Because they know that they are the original man. They know back in time now that they were the first to come here. They know they are the children of the sun. They actually know this now, or it's that they didn't know this. Right. So go back to what you said as far as like teaching our kids the truth. If you have a school who don't have the people in there that represents the population, they will never get that. They will never understand that they are the children that they are original. So that's why I say that And the parents should pay attention to that and be aware of that, and then start their school. We can start our own schools in the garage, in the basement, in the backyard, on the front porch, somewhere.
But some of those parents themselves have no idea who they are.
That's the other part.
That's the other.
That's the
huge part. They don't know the history.
Because the kids reflect that.
Reflect whatever they get from their parents. Yes. Right. So say you are. So say you are. If your father's your father, so say you are. So, I mean, okay, that makes sense. We need to actually re-educate not only the children, but a lot of the parents today. Get a re-education of who you are, where you stand, and maybe we should start following other groups and ethnicities and things like that. Not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but we should start getting more engaged in ourselves.
They're doing it.
Right.
I mentioned to the brothers speaking of the kids, that's what I call them, the brothers. I said, we're African Americans, right? He's like, yeah, we are. I said, just say an African word. Just name one African word. No one could think of any. Okay. Name an African song. No one can name an African food. Name an African state, city, whatever. They couldn't think of any. And they were like, wow. We call ourselves African. We don't know anything African. No. So as opposed to
that changed. We weren't always called African American. If you look at your birth certificates, it changed.
Right.
So I wonder what our parents' birth certificate looked like. They now I think it says African American on it, but it did probably 10 or 20 years ago.
Yeah,
Negro. It said Negro. It said Negro.
I think it was black. Well, if we're going backwards, so African American today, black yesterday, Negroes yesteryear before that, and then maybe way back then was coon or something. I don't know. But,
colored.
Yeah, colored. It was colored. We've been everything, every byword that they can think of, right?
Yeah.
But
that they can think of.
That they can think of.
Well, they wrote it on the birth certificate, is what I'm saying. The birth certificate literally states African American, and it literally states Negro, depending on the period.
So it's like
referring to.
Yeah.
Lack of education. So education, there's a lack of education.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And so, in order for us to re-educate our children and get them so that they can compete, and it's not about people say, well, that's racist or not. It's not about racism. It's about taking care of self, right? In order for me to take care of anybody else, I have to take care of myself first. If I'm not taken care of, how can I take care of anybody else? So let's re-educate our children. Let's get us into a better state. Let's get these guns off the street. Let's get these drugs. We don't bring those drugs in our communities. We don't bring the guns in our communities. We don't do any of those things. But what we do control is we control the minds of our children.
Yeah, we do.
And if each parent begins to act on that, says, you know what I do control is the mind of my child. And I'm going to, from this day forward, not accept anything but the best.
Right.
And I think if we start doing that in the homes, like you said, it starts with the parents, starts with the homes. Nowadays, we don't have that church, that spirituality that we used to have. Right, the old Negro spirituals and stuff, or the churches. We had a sense of community. We've lost community. We've lost the intellect. If we look at our so-called leaders of today, we don't have any. We don't have a voice. There's no one really speaking for us. We're speaking into the Rainbow Coalition, and it's fine. It's fine because we're human beings, and humanity has to work together. But I believe before a Rainbow Coalition can come together, each individual family has to take care of themselves, right? When we're all taken care of, we can all sit at the table and I'll say, you know what? This Rainbow Coalition is functional. It's now functional because each family is taking care of themselves. Without taking care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. Right. And I think that the Christ people rail and say, well, the Christ this and that. Let's just listen to the words that the Christ spoke, right? You can't do anything until you have love for self. And Christ was only speaking about self-love. If we love each other, first we have to love self.
Last week I showed my boys the doll test. I showed them that.
Okay.
This test where the black kids got to choose between the black doll and the white doll. I showed them that. And on the video, the questions were asked to the black kids. Which doll is the good doll? Pointing at the white doll. Which doll is the bad doll? Pointing at the bad doll. Which doll is the ugly doll? Which doll is the cute doll?
Right.
Which doll would you rather play with? So my students are watching this, and they tripping out, man. They're like, wow, you know. And I would, and for the one of the,
It's a programming.
yeah,
It's a programming. So at the moment that you wake, the moment that we wake and walk out, even the moment we wake, we're being programmed through television, through internet, through you walk out the door through advertisements, through color. So it's a programming, and they see the magazines and their friends and TikTok and ha ha ha.
But
and so they're programmed to really believe that the black doll really is ugly when it's the most beautiful thing. It's God. It's like melanin. Melanin is of God. It's God.
Right, but what we're not doing is challenging critical thinking. We're not teaching critical thinking to our students, our kids. So that's why they believe everything they see. They just...
Well, you mentioned that in, I think, prior. Our children not being taught.
Right.
Right. They just want to actually show up, accept what they get, and move on without it. And critical thinking is one of the things that you actually need. And that comes you need, without critical thinking, life becomes very challenging. Because you don't know what is. You can't disseminate right from wrong. You can't say, okay, if I do this, cause and effect. Critical thinking is all about cause and effect, this and that. So again, we probably just need to pull our children out of these school systems.
Yeah, we have to.
Yeah, we have to. As a people, we have to take bold steps now. Pull our children out of these systems. We're talking about the voting rights. We can't get voting rights passed. We can't get the lynch laws passed. Okay, and I'm not someone that will say, you know, Asians got a bill passed in 1 month. We have voting rights bills, lynch law bills. It's been years and years and years, but we can't get that passed. They talk a good game, and I also got to talk at our leaders. Why are they sitting back allowing these things to continue to go on the floor of Congress, get debated, talked about, and then it falls by the wayside? And it's always this tomorrow, kumbaya. I'm not for kumbaya anymore. I said we need to take bold steps. If we can't get the voting rights bill and the lynch laws bill, guess what? And then we need to shut the economics of America down because we have that power in our hands. Maybe we don't know that, but hey, African American community, if we can't get what we need done by our elected officials, it's time to we start, first of all, taking a look at these elected officials and support those who support us. And if they don't support us, maybe we don't vote. Maybe we don't do the things that they take for granted. We have to start taking bold measures now. And we can't rely on Al Sharpton and all these other so-called leaders who are out there talking and talking and talking and nothing's being done while our children are being gunned down on the streets, sent into prisons, while we socially, economically, and educationally fall behind, and they're living good. They're living good. I'm not taking anything away from them because they put their time in, but you know what? Our children are suffering right now. So, you know, we as a people need to take a bold stand. We need to rethink what we've been doing, and we need more leaders who are going to say, guess what? Enough is enough. Either we get what we want or we burn everything down.
We need to produce the leaders, though. You know what I mean? That's what the schools aren't doing also, is that, you know, the leader that just got removed from the class because of her mask, you know, she's just lost, you know, confidence to become even much more of a leader. Or maybe that inspired her to be much more of a leader, you know? But we're not validating that because we're not in the schools teaching them. Yeah. They're not, you know, when I was coming up in middle school, we had about 75% black teachers. So they held us accountable.
Correct.
They actually told us to be leaders. They actually gave us this repetitive language of how to lead and accountability and community, you know. So as you remove those teachers out and fly in teachers from Boston, from Jersey, from, you know, these different cities that have no connection to Oakland, then you're losing even more. Like literally, our teachers now, our staff is majority not from here.
Right.
You know,
It's like integrating the school system, but you're integrating it actually in reverse.
Yeah.
Right? You're not integrating for the better of the student. You're actually integrating so the student fails. Right? It looks like you're doing something for the student, but you're not.
You're not.
You're not doing anything. You're actually doing more harm than good.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, we know that there's a lot of people out there that want to do good. They, whenever we can talk about black, white, this, that. Generally, good people want good. But we know that there's a system set up already in place, and it's there. Systemic racism, we can say there's a system in place that says, hey, we only want. And if you look statistically at all the numbers, slavery never ended. Statistically, house Negroes, field Negroes are the same today. Mm-hmm. You have your house Negroes who are somewhat, they have the money, and the majority of them are not house Negroes. So statistically, if you look at slavery never ended. If you look at the police departments, right? People may not be aware of this. Who were the overseers back in the days of slavery? They were Irish. Mm-hmm. They were the Irish overseers. Now, before they integrated the police departments, all of your police officers were Irish descent. So slavery hasn't gone anywhere. The institutions haven't gone anywhere. All they did was sweeten the Kool-Aid. Mm-hmm. So you're drunk on sugar, where nothing has changed, nothing will change. The only change that's going to come is we starting to take ownership, and we need to take more ownership of our own stuff. We need to take ownership of our children. We need to take ownership of our businesses. We need to take ownership of our economics. We need to take ownership of our social stuff, even our communities. We shouldn't have trash in our communities. We should be throwing McDonald's. You look and you see McDonald's burgers on the ground, French fries on the ground, drinks. We need to take ownership of ourselves, and the more we take ownership of ourselves, the more people will respect us. Why would I respect you if you don't respect yourself? That's the way I see it. I'm not going to give you respect. You don't respect yourself? Well, why should I respect you? You're not doing anything to better yourself, so why should I do anything to better you? I give you what you deserve. Mm-hmm. If you want to live in filth, then I give you filth. Mm-hmm. If you want clean water, I'll give you clean water. You want dirty water, I give you dirty water. But that's what we're getting right now. And we'll continue to get that. And we'll continue to lose. We'll continue to fall behind until we say, you know what? We're putting the brakes on this bus right now. And we don't care who was driving this bus, it has to stop, and this is what we want.
But what do we have to see for that to happen? Because we're super dependent on it. That's what you're talking about dependency.
We're seeing it now. The product is we're losing our children, right? We're losing our children. They're lost.
So my student that is sitting right now on a murder charge, why isn't his father at the time of when the first parent-teacher conference took place, and it was told that his son can't read, why didn't the parents make a change then?
We don't know. We don't know what the state of the father was or the mother at that time. We don't know what they were going through. We have no idea. We don't know the struggles of the parent because we don't have a support system to support that. Where is that support system? Where's that support to say, hey, Mr. So-and-so, your child is failing. What can you do about it? And the father can say, well, you know what? I am struggling. I need this and that. Or I didn't get the education. So how do we fix those things? How do we now, let's not hear all these people talk this game. They have all these conferences. They dress up. They go to all these places and they do the big hoorah, rah, rah, this, we're going to do this, and nothing comes out of it. I went to the Million Man March, right?
Yeah.
We were supposed to have all these monies come back in these neighborhoods, right? So that we can start businesses, start things. That never happened. That never materialized. None of that stuff happened. So we get a lot of leaders who talk big. We get a lot of people who talk big. We have all these financiers, all this, and they talk big, but there's really no outcome. And if we can say individuals, some individuals are doing things, correct?
Yeah.
But we need a collective. Mm-hmm. We don't need individuals. We need a collective of beings doing things. We need the Oprahs. We need all our billionaires, our multimillionaires. We need them to come together and say, you know what? We have the money. We have the resources. We can do something for our people. There's nothing wrong with that. There shouldn't be anything wrong with Oprah or anyone is supporting us as a people, saying that, you know, we need to do things better. And people point, oh, LeBron's doing this or this was doing, yeah, individually, people are doing things. But that individual work does not trickle down as a collective to the people.
Yeah, I think also what's missing is standards and morals. Like a couple of the Polynesian kids told me that they weren't allowed to fight other Polynesians. Like that's it. You got Tongan, Samoan, they're not allowed to fight each other.
We don't have that.
That's a code.
Right.
That's great.
That's a code.
That's
so, like, how do we implement that type of code amongst ourselves?
Well,
we are not allowed to fight each other anymore. You could probably argue, but we can't.
That would have to come again. That comes from leadership.
We have to be a collective mind, and you know, if we teach mindfulness, you know, and we teach who we are, you know, to our youth and our babies and our people, they might get it.
They might.
Because we have to, if we love each other, if we love ourselves, gotta first love us, and I think Dan mentioned that earlier. So once you love yourself and you start making the changes to make yourself better, you know, through different things, you know, and when you're doing that, it's contagious.
Right. So we need to make that a trend. You know, we need to meme it. You know, we have to use today's technology and trending on getting that word out. Like, hey, man, we're not allowed to fight each other anymore.
Yes, good thinking.
You know, that needs to be. And I test these things with my kids, you know, and you know, it takes a minute because it has to be repetition. It has to be, you know, reminded to them, but they eventually bite onto it, you know. And but you got to know your kids. That's the other part of it. These parents know their kids. These teachers know their kids, so they know exactly how to get them to understand what they want them to understand. If I want my child to understand that I'm going to take his phone away, my child's going to understand that.
Right.
You know, we take advantage of the advantage. You know, take advantage of the moments we have that we know will get our child's attention. You know, along with taking the phone away, then we present something else. It just can't stop there. You know, I just think the parents aren't doing enough.
So we just have to be able to not only get on the students, but get on the parents.
Yeah.
And we have to have the support system not only for the students, but for the parents. And we have to hold everybody accountable. Everybody accountable. If one child fails, then the whole community is failed.
That's the way I see it.
I think so. I think we have to get back to, if the child failed, the community has failed the child. Because at this present day and time, there's too much opportunity, and there's no reason that our children should be failing.
No, it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You know,
It's definitely not with this technology.
Yeah.
I mean, you can Google anything, right? So if you want to know what a word means, you Google it, rather than using the technology for the things that they use it today, which is no benefit. Actually,
video games is all they do.
Yeah.
Man, you know. So, so I would say, solution is, you know, for those that have the resources to, you know, bring some kids into your home, please, by all means, do that. You know, bring them in, feed them, and teach them. You know, that's one thing I also had done. I started a Saturday school, and that's exactly what I've done. I had about 4 other adults who were like-minded and felt as though it was a necessity.
Right.
And we had about a dozen students. We finished with about 8 of them, or 9 of them, excuse me. And it worked. You know, they come in about 11 o'clock on a Saturday, leave about 3 o'clock, we feed them, and we break that day up. We'd give them instruction on their history, give them instruction on, you know, health and wellness. We give them instruction on entrepreneurship. We give them instruction on, you know, society, government, politics.
Right.
You know, their position, and just self-knowledge. You know, where they need to play. You know, and by the end of that, they graduated, and all those kids are now like adults. I have a couple of them that are in the military. They're pilots. A couple of them are about to graduate from college. But they remember the class. They remember the time it took to teach them.
Okay.
They remember the studies. They remember certain particular moments that really, was an aha moment for them.
Okay. So
We disciplined them.
Gotcha. So it's beneficial in their lives.
Yeah, we disciplined them. There was one of the kids. He had stole his next door neighbor's Game Boy or something like that. So that his mother told me. And before they signed up for the class, in the fine writings, like, we will discipline the kid. I am the dean of students and we will use this paddle. I had a paddle, a pledge paddle. So when that happened with the game, the mother told me, and I said, would you like for me to? And she said, yes. So I took the boy in the back and we had a discussion and I disciplined him. And, he respected that. The family understood that that kid needs to be disciplined, and I totally believe that we're lacking discipline.
We're lacking discipline.
We're lacking discipline with these kids. The kids don't see, there's no fear. They're not worried of getting disciplined for something that they did wrong. That was inappropriate, So when you have a kid like that, then they will just, do anything.
Right.
So is it a more of a, because I don't know if other people have the same view. I don't believe in discipline in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried to, I wonder how we disciplined when we were in Africa, before Africa was Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you it didn't include violence.
No, it didn't, because...
And I don't mean violence.
Right, right.
Don't mean, no, not violence, but...
right.
And I know what you mean, because sometimes it's like, how do we get their attention?
Yeah.
And I got paddled as a kid, so that's why I hurried up and had to get in and say something, because I'll never forget it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever want that again.
Right.
It didn't make sense, and I even spoke of that as an adult to someone recently. So, but you know what though, you're right. Some do need it, because if they don't get it, they'll be the ones that lose their life to things like an officer, because they didn't listen and do what they were taught.
That's right. The kid that's sitting with the attempted murder charge, his father said, I never whipped him. I never whipped my boy. Okay, well, look at him now.
Yeah. You have to discipline. We need discipline. We need. Again, I guess we need all facets of society, and in all areas. But
and there's more than one way of discipline. I remember when I was taking martial arts and I didn't get certain things correct. Either having on my fingers, on my knees,
right.
Doing certain,
Books.
Yeah, but.
Oh yeah.
Now to me,
yeah.
I'll hold books, because guess what? I'll discipline myself that way.
Right.
I'll discipline myself by going out at 4 a.m. into the forest to ensure that, you know what I mean? Just doing different things so yeah, those things, that's discipline. Mm-hmm. And I love that thank you because you're helping me figure out how to get it done as a parent.
Right. Well, that's good. I guess I wouldn't want to end on discipline. I think we need to kind of end it on, we need to focus as parents, as a community. We need to support each other, do the things that we have to do to make sure that our children are better educated, and then can move forward. And again, this is going to be a very competitive world. And if we lack the will to do so, our children will just fall behind.
I think if nothing else, remind our students of their original symbols. Okay. Like the hunk you have, that belongs to them. Right. They need to be able to identify their artwork, their symbols, their music. Before my kids come to class, I got drums playing, African drums. So the first day, they heard that, they were like laughing and dancing. But now it's like, where is it? I did a test. I didn't play it one day. And it's like, where's the music at? You know, where's the drums? You know?
That's cute.
Yeah, so it's like they love hearing the drums now.
Like the 9 Biggie drums, beat the drums.
Right.
That's the first.
We have to re-engage them or remind them of what belongs to them.
Right. What belongs to us.
You know.
Definitely. I think with that, Sam, we thank you. It was a great conversation, great discussion. Want to say that support our teachers, support our children. Do what Sam's doing. He's not just talking; he's actually putting word to action. And we need to all do the same thing. So with that said, I want to thank you for coming out. I know you have a busy schedule. You're doing a lot of different things. We definitely want to have you back. We'd like to have you back on a different discussion. Talk about more of what we need to do as a people. Maybe talk about Garvey as well.
Yes, sir.
And just kind of educate on who we are, the need to have understanding, and have greater self-esteem, self-appeal, things like that. So that said, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And
thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
My brother, thank you. Yes,
we appreciate what you're doing.
Oh,
definitely. Thank you what you're doing for the children. Just for starting there, and it was really amazing to meet with you.
Thank you.
All right.
Same here.
Cool. And so you can catch us, the hour, on any of your social podcast platforms, or you can go directly to thehour.podbean.com and subscribe, become a patron. Like I said, we are building communities one podcast at a time. We're not here for ourselves. We're here for the community. We're here to engage. We're here for everyone, not just the African American community, not just, we're here for all communities. But obviously we have to start with ourselves. And the more that we can engage, the more that we can get culturally engaged, I think the better this world will be. So again, with that said, thank you and good night.